Namaste and welcome to the program presented by YTV Source with me, your host Karki. On today's episode, we have young entrepreneur Mr. Hitesh Karki as our guest. He is Director of Academics at Dear Work Institute of Technology. Please welcome him at our show. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Please briefly tell us about your journey or experience being an entrepreneur.
Started my professional career in 2000. So I started as a developer for mercantile software. So we're doing good then. So we're trying to develop all kinds of banking softwares, and they're pretty popular in Nepal at that particular point in time. So there were a lot of big clients. And somewhere around 2003, I got an offer from a pretty unknown company. So I was kind of forced to take a risk. So I thought, if at all I have to take risk in my life, that was the best time. So I said, okay. So I ended up in a company, software company, that didn't have any kind of name as such. So there was just a bunch of people who used to even eat there. So it was not like a formal kind of office setup. But soon we started working and things started falling in place. So I was asked to look into management side of things as well. So we started hiring more and more people, and things got bigger and bigger. So we had to keep on moving from one building to another because we just couldn't fit in one single building. So finally we ended up in Vishal Nagar, and I think when we were at our peak, there were around 280 people working. So in a period of, let's say, 7 years, so I was employee number 16. I still remember that.
Okay.
So I had to manage somewhere around 260 people. So I was given that particular role. So it was really nice to see Nepal, a company like that, taking shape in Nepal.
Okay, so would you mind telling about Dear Work Institute of Technology, which is located at Kathmandu, how it is doing?
All right, so Dear Work Institute of Technology perhaps is different in a lot of ways. I think if I start telling you all the entire thing about your work, it will just go on and on and on, because there's so much differentiating factor about this particular thing. But once I decided to leave the particular company, the one I was working earlier on, so I was asked to take charge of something that's never been done before. And trust me, one of the things I've written in my LinkedIn profile is, I don't know why did I write it, but there's a certain line, and at times I do get amused by myself as to why did I write that particular thing. So this is a line that says that I like to make things bigger, better, and more efficient. And I really don't know what...
Yeah, these lines are really encouraging.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't know, deep down inside there must be something in me, but it's more like I really don't know why did I write that. So I was kind of given this offer, and I went to talk to the promoters out there, and they happen to be my previous bosses.
Please tell us how Dear Work Institute of Technology is able to synchronize between the entrepreneurs in USA and that of Nepal.
DWIT is not a kind of accident. So it's nothing like, okay, we sat down and said, okay, let's start a college. So it has, I think, more become a result of the experience that we've gone through. So trust me, during my 9-year stint at the previous company, whenever we had to hire, let's say, 10 people, we used to get as much as 500 or 600 CVs. But at times we would not even be able to pick up 10 people out of those 500 applicants.
Okay.
So somewhere we started realizing the fact that there's something missing in entire education system out here. So people do know, people have been taught well about the particular subject matter, but everything is so bookish kind of thing. And people are far from reality as to what is happening in the real world.
Karki, you are dealing with many young people in your college, Dear Work. So how young people can be empowered, or how their capacity can be developed, in your opinion?
Going back to 2007, 2008, so it's more like we used to jokingly say, someday we need to start a college on our own.
Okay.
So trust me, it was nothing like we're being serious about it, but we just jokingly used to say things. But there was a certain pretext to it, background to it. So every time we tried to hire somebody, it was really a kind of pain for us, because we used to get like I said, 500,000 number of applicants, and we just couldn't select the best one because everybody had a same set of skill sets, right? Because they've been taught the same subject. So they pretty much follow the same kind of syllabus. But beyond that, they didn't have much to offer. And as a college, I think the way they've been taught in the college was that you get to know about the kind of professional work that you have to do once you go to a certain company. And we as a company used to tell students that, see, we are a professional company and we are a money-making company. So we're not here to teach you and train you and waste our time. So the moment you come into, step inside us, we give you certain benefit, and there's like salary and all kinds of benefits. But in return, you need to give us something back. And they were like, it's almost like they would say, it would take, we don't know this, we don't know that, we were never taught about this particular thing, teacher never told us about this thing. And then I used to ask them, then why should I even think of hiring you? Because I'm going to spend perhaps 3 to 4 months of my time just trying to train you. And training would cost me a lot, and there's a lot of opportunity cost associated with training. Yeah. So it's not just my time. So suppose this is a very good engineer who is doing his own work. Now he has to take some of his time out from his regular work and then go on and train this particular guy. So I'm losing a lot of money from all sides. And on top of that, I'm working for a US company. So I need to ensure that things get delivered right on time, or else I would be paying fine rather than making money. So given that all those contexts, then we thought that, okay, someday we'll come up with a college. But again, trust me, it was nothing like a concrete plan. So I still continued there, and then somehow that dream, that kind of joke, that kind of dream turned into reality, and I was called by the promoters and then my seniors, and they said, okay, whatever way we used to talk, now there it is, we can start and take it off from there. And again, the kind of challenge I liked it is that there was nothing like a kind of bare minimum setup done, so I need to do a lot of things.
How exactly their work has helped for economic prosperity of Native society in case of USA and Nepal? Because it's a collaborative organization with that of USA.
I think a lot of times it's more like we Nepalese tend to think that if you go stay outside, you make a lot of money, things come for free, quality of life is definitely going to be good, and to a certain extent that is right. But again, it's not that once you'll end up in US, things come for free. So you got to have certain kind of skill sets. And one of the things we realize is that once I go there, so I used to go to US, I used to be trained over there, and then I used to come back to Nepal and I used to give a certain kind of training. And one of the fascinating thing about the culture of work that you do was, I'll get to the money point, but before that, it's more like the amount of work they would do in 9 to 5, those I think 9 hours of time. It's almost like we take 18 hours to do the same amount of work out here. Because after half an hour of work, we take a break, we go there, we talk about all the kind of things, we talk about politics, and we talk about so many things, but we were never that professional. So once you go back and come, so you get this particular culture, and you can transfer that culture to the rest of the people. So suddenly you see me working like I'm not moving around, gossiping a lot, and people take a note of that. So the people are really smart, and we always used to say that always got to respect our employees. So they are very young, but they are very watchful, and they're really, really, really smart. So never undermine the employees. So now as far as the monetary thing is concerned, so obviously we could offer to pay them much more than what other companies were paying. But again, I still know that there were other companies who would pay as much as we were paying. But the irony lies in the fact that students never got to know about those particular companies. And the colleges out there never made an effort to kind of promote their companies to take their companies to the colleges. So I studied in India, right? So when I was in my final semester, all the big companies like Tata, Infosys, TCS, Infosys, so they used to come to us, come to our colleges, give presentations and say, why don't you join us and why don't you join us? So this is what we're about. But in Nepal, it's like companies are on the one side of the thing and colleges are on the other side, and there's no one trying to bridge the gap. So it's more like, since we're making money, and we're not making that huge amount of money, but by Nepalese standards, certainly that was a kind of money that we're paying. And I think somewhere around 2006, we ended up being the highest tax-paying company in Nepal in that particular field. So I'm not saying in all the companies, but in that particular category, we're perhaps the highest.
Okay, so as you have said that there is lack of corporate placement in case of Nepal, we don't have practical exposure to our students. How for your organization it is being able to create opportunities for your students or Nepalese youngsters?
So entire idea behind the DWIT, so Development Institute of Technology, so one of the things is that it's more like we share the same premise. So this is a Development Services Private Limited that has 267 employees, and then there's a college, and they're in the same campus, right?
Yeah.
So every day they can interact with each other. So one of the best things that they can do is always talk to each other and know what kind of skill sets do I really need to possess when I get to go to work. And as far as bridging the gap is concerned, it's more like I've been going to a lot of colleges and telling them, okay, we really want to help you. So we want to tell you the stories of Nepalese companies. So we even came up with a list, like top 100 IT companies in Nepal. So it was based on certain methodology. Some still argue whether that's the official one and whether we take it as a face value or not. But the point is we wanted to share that particular information to each and everybody, especially targeted students. And I used to go and tell students that please go and do your own research and try to figure it out. So these days you really don't have to rely on your colleges and don't start complaining, right? So we're so used to this complaining kind of culture.
Yeah.
It's more like don't do that. So just Google things out. So we put out a list of 100 companies, try to figure it out, and you'll find Australian companies, you will find even Europe-based companies. So it's not just American company.
We should build learning culture in ourselves, especially youngsters. They should build that culture.
Yeah. So it's more like we used to do that, but the irony lies somewhere in the fact that I really don't want to blame the colleges as such. But some of the colleges, I think I can say with certain degree of certainty that they're not really into it, right? So what I mean by that is it's more like they're there, but they just want to let students go with a degree, and that's pretty much about it. So they really don't bother about telling the entire story as to how the world is moving, how the software industry is moving, and what kind of companies exist in Nepal, and who are the people you need to talk to. So it's more like we went to KU back from the earlier company, and it's more like they were very welcoming, and we even ended up signing an MOU with them. So they would give us their best students, right? And they would do their internship into my previous company. And then in return, what you ask them, our condition was that we would be able to rate them, right? So if I give a certain student C, then the college better take that as a C and not manipulate that particular mark. So out here, I think that culture was missing. So DWIT is more like we want to completely get rid of all this gap that really exists between the academia and the industry. So every day we tell stories, we share stories. Now since we live in the same campus, right? So I can have some senior come up or some senior come up and tell what are the kind of difficulties and what are the things he missed out in college, so that my students would know, okay, these are the things I better take care of, or else I'm going to miss a big opportunity.
Let's move towards arena of entrepreneurship. It is said that everybody sees chaos, but entrepreneurs, they are believed to see patterns. Is it so that entrepreneurs, they see the color out of box which others cannot? How far it is implemented in your case?
I don't know if I were to say that I'm kind of person who is always thinking out of the box. Probably I'd be making a statement that I should not be. But at the same time, a lot of things do strike me, and I tend to see things in a different way. So it's more like even like, so I would still go back to the college, and a lot of people, when I say that I joined this particular institution where there's just 8 students, a lot of people thought that I was crazy. And a lot of people say that, look, there you were, part of American company where you're managing 360 people, and now you've gone on to join a school that even doesn't have 8 students. So aren't you crazy? And I said, no. So my kind of thinking out of the box is like trying to see what is impossible. And there's a certain, if I see there are certain impossibilities out there.
I've read somewhere in an article titled as Time for Change, published in Republica. There it was mentioned that youth, they have ability and capacity for the transformation of a change. What sort of capacity you see in Nepalese youth?
It's more like they're full of ideas, but I don't know whom to blame. So the article you're talking about, so trust me, I think on the Monday's edition, later to the editor, a lot of people were kind of, the arguments they were making is that it is whatever you're saying is totally wrong. Nepal is in transition phase and there's nothing like you can hand over to the youth. But people I interact with, they'd say, some of my friends who stood for elections. So it's a different thing whether they won or lost, but they had a point to make. And they have such a drive, and they can think out of the box, and it's more like they know this particular thing is going to work, right? And for somehow, I don't know who created this kind of concept, but a lot of people tend to think that the older you get to know better, right? So it's more, I think we're still driven by the fact that you need to have a lot of experience to do a lot of things. But then what about Mark Zuckerberg, right? How would they start our Facebook? Right, so nobody thinks that in that particular way. And look at it, even look at people like Obama. How old is he? He's not that old, right? So 8 years back, he was not that old, right? But still, he went on to become a president. Now out here, what I see is whenever I get to go to meet certain person, especially in parties like social gatherings, so all these kind of people whom we were so used to seeing time and time again, and I think somewhere I do feel a kind of angst and anxiety looking at them, because I don't know, I can't even remember the last time this person was a certain kind of minister, right? So as if it has become his birthright. So every time that particular party comes to power, he's the one who is going to become the minister. A lot of things that might have changed since then. So it's 20 years is a long period.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm sure you're still stuck to the idea that whatever he learned 20 years back, and he still not, obviously he's failed to implement that, and still he is saying that, making an argument that this is the kind of things that needs to be done. But now there are a lot of PhDs from one of the best universities in the world, Nepalese students. They are here, and nobody even thinks that they can take charge of things, and they can run this.
But the thing is, like, change is possible. Change is possible, and it's possible.
Oh yes, it's possible. But I think somewhere I do have this inclination towards following the global events. So I truly don't believe in the kind of movement that India had in Delhi, right? So this entire Kejriwal AAP movement. But again, what I'm trying to say is that somewhere we as a youth, again, we also not been able to create a forum where you can voice our concerns together. So I really pity some of our young leaders, right? So they're stuck in a position. So we all want to see them take charge of certain things. But trust me, following all the events so far, how things are moving, they won't be able to take charge of certain things unless they reach 65, because there are so many people in the queue.
Yeah.
So I really feel bad for them, and I do talk to them often, and it's more like, if I were to quote in Nepali, of Solonai streets of the queue.
Yeah, we do have things.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what are the challenges and obstacles that are basically faced out by youngsters when they want to start up their own business, and how it can be overcome?
Okay, so I think one thing I've got this clear is it's more of a learning that I've made over the years. So definitely I'm going to teach my child once he grows up. But I think we're raised up in a culture where it's more like we're not always encouraged to take risks. So it's more like...
be in safe side.
Yeah, so we want to be in safe side, and we want to put everybody on the safe side. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the flip side too is that we never encourage people to do something. So even if you got, let's say, 1 lakh rupees, I don't know how many parents will say to his graduate son, okay, you'll go and start a business with this 1 lakh rupees.
We are at the end of the show. What suggestions you would like to give for the aspiring young entrepreneurs?
I think it's always okay to fail, and never even think that whatever business that you're going to venture into, is always think from the worst case scenario. So sometimes we tend to think from best case scenario. So what is going to happen if entire thing fails? So you always need to be clear about that. So I think that's perhaps the first lesson, that you need to get this thing clear in your head. And next up is perhaps don't just go by the whim. Just don't go by saying that, okay, somebody has started a restaurant business or this business, so I would rather go into this. Take a moment, pause, think back and say, okay, everybody is doing that, so why follow that particular trend? So am I not that capable enough of finding something new that nobody has even ever thought of? So the thinking time, we don't take that as a very kind of important kind of thing. Right? So we do hear stories about a lot of big successful businessmen taking a year out or 2 years and just trying to think of an idea. But out here, if we were like sitting idle, even for a week, and if we were to tell somebody that I'm thinking, people really don't appreciate that. But I would say it's okay to just think for 6 months, right?
We need to take a break sometime for creative, innovative ideas.
Yeah, and people think that thinking is not that big a ask. Okay. But I would say that that's a very critical aspect of starting anything new. So there's 2 things that I would want to tell. So always think from the worst case scenario. So we always tend to think from the best case scenario. So what if it fails? And trust me, 99% of the time things are bound to fail, or else everybody would have been millionaire by now.
Definitely.
So it's just that people fail to think from that particular side. And second thing is, again, like I said, don't just jump into the bandwagon and other people are doing it, other people are doing it, they're making money, so I just go in the bandwagon and I'll also end up making money. Just stop there and say, okay, everybody is going there, why not I go somewhere else?
So if any creative mindsets, they would like to meet you regarding IT or other business prospects, so how can they approach you?
I don't know whether I would be, honestly speaking, the kind of help they would seek. I would be the best mentor, so I would never claim that. But certainly I can tell them what I've seen over here and what are the things that are a miss out there. And as far as trying to approach me, it's more like my email address is pretty simple. So it's hiteshkarki@gmail, right?
Thank you very much for coming in our show, and putting forward your insights. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in our program. Hope you like this entrepreneurial session with another one young entrepreneur. We'll come back with some more young entrepreneurs in days ahead. Keep watching programs of YTV shows. If you have any feedback, you can send us at info@ytvnepal.org. Namaste.